The moment the violet gold light rushed into Lin Dong's body, his body abruptly froze. Almost instantly, his face turned a deep purple, and countless strands of violet gold light started surging from his pupils. Damn it! A curse escaped through Lin Dong's clenched teeth, his body trembling slightly. The sudden intrusion of that violet gold light caused chaos within his body in the blink of an eye. That light was like an ancient dragon, surging wildly within him. Despite Lin Dong's current physical strength, waves of pain coursed through him under its violent rampage. Lin Dong took several deep breaths, trying to suppress the pain coursing through him. He quickly sat cross-legged, focused his mind inward, and unleashed his primordial energy, attempting to trap the violet gold light that had invaded his body. Bang! 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 However, his efforts seemed futile. The violet gold light was shockingly fierce, crashing through every barrier he erected and continuing to wreak havoc in his meridians. Curse it! Lin Dong cursed again, and with a thought, the devouring ancestral talisman transformed into a black torrent and surged out. At the same time, the ancient cosmic formation above his dantian turned into a stream of light, shooting out as well. The two divine artifacts were released simultaneously. Sensing danger, the violet gold light reined in its rampage slightly, but it clearly refused to submit, flickering wildly as it darted around Lin Dong's limbs and body. Let's see where you run. Lin Dong's mind stayed locked on the violet gold light. A moment later, a cold smile crossed his lips as the devouring ancestral talisman appeared before the light like a black hole, while the ancient cosmic formation approached from behind, forming a barrier that enveloped the violet gold light. Boom! Boom! The violet gold light slammed violently against the barrier formed by the ancient cosmic formation, but this time, it was simply rebounded. Let's see what you really are, daring to run wild in my body. Lin Dong's face held a grim expression. If not for the devouring ancestral talisman and the ancient cosmic formation guarding him, the violet gold light might have pushed him to the brink of death. With his attention focused, Lin Dong finally noticed something. The violet gold light wasn't just light. It seemed to be a piece of violet gold skin, no larger than a thumbnail. For a moment, Lin Dong was stunned. A piece of skin? That thing that emerged from the crack in the light barrier was a piece of skin? And now it had lodged itself in his body? The bizarre turn of events left Lin Dong momentarily dumbfounded, but he quickly calmed down. Though small, the violet gold skin exuded an ancient aura of immense power. It was unmistakably the energy of the primordial wilderness, yet the energy within this skin far surpassed the 7th level of the tower, as if there was a tangible difference in quality. Let's try refining it. The thought crossed Lin Dong's mind. The energy within the violet gold skin was incredibly pure, and if he could absorb it, it would undoubtedly benefit his sky-transforming dragon art greatly. Excitement flickered in Lin Dong's heart, and without further hesitation, he activated the devouring ancestral talisman. Numerous tendrils of devouring light wove themselves around the violet gold skin. The skin, clearly of extraordinary origin, initially showed no response to the devouring light. However, Lin Dong remained patient. Whatever this thing was, it had fallen into his hands, and there was no way it could escape now. As the devouring force intensified, the violet gold skin finally began to tremble, shedding thin strands of violet gold light. These strands transformed into wisps of violet gold energy, spreading throughout Lin Dong's body. Lin Dong carefully wrapped a thread of the violet gold energy with his primordial energy. The moment the two energies touched, a low, ancient hum reverberated through his body. Boom! In an instant, the primordial energy surrounding the violet gold energy shattered, and the violet gold energy surged toward Lin Dong's bones, muscles, and meridians. Crack! Crack! As the energy coursed through him, Lin Dong was shocked to see his bones, muscles, and meridians begin to writhe. Violet gold patterns spread across his body, resembling worms burrowing into his bones, a sight that made one's skin crawl. What terrifying primordial wilderness energy! Lin Dong inhaled sharply, his heart pounding with fear. The energy contained within the strands of violet gold light was refined to an almost frightening degree. It was too potent, so potent that even Lin Dong's current body could barely withstand it. Lin Dong's tightly shut eyes suddenly snapped open as he hurriedly glanced down at his body. Beneath his skin, streams of violet gold light wriggled, and to his horror, his body began to swell slightly. Rather than being pleased by the surge of power, Lin Dong's face turned pale. The energy from the violet gold skin was far too overwhelming. If it were allowed to fully merge with his body, he might explode into a mist of blood. I can't let it merge into my body. Lin Dong gritted his teeth and swiftly activated the sky-transforming dragon art, using the violet gold energy to form azure dragon light patterns. A faint azure light surged across Lin Dong's body, gradually halting the pulsating violet gold energy. This energy then began to coil and retract across his form, transforming into streaks of azure dragon markings. 12, 15, 18, 23. One by one, the azure dragon markings appeared. By the time the glow finally ceased, there were already 23 dragon light markings on Lin Dong's body, double the number from before. Lin Dong's mouth twitched as he looked on. He could hardly believe it. The primordial wilderness energy contained in just that thumb-sized piece of violet gold skin had directly refined 13 more azure dragon light markings for him. It was more effective than a whole month of grueling cultivation. However, these extra 13 azure dragon light markings were different from the 10 Lin Dong had painstakingly cultivated. The markings from cultivation could regenerate once depleted, but the extra 13 would disappear for good once used, unless he found another piece of violet gold skin to refine and absorb. This was the difference between consumables and regenerables. The main reason for this distinction was that Lin Dong's body had reached its current limit. 10 azure dragon light markings was his maximum. To increase this limit, he would need to further improve his strength. Still, Lin Dong was thrilled. The extra 13 azure dragon light markings would become a hidden trump card. He believed that unleashing all 23 at once would be powerful enough to instantly kill any expert at the great completion of the life mystique stage. Even a perfect completion expert would not dare to face it head-on. Looks like I've gained a new technique. Lin Dong grinned, then retrieved his clothing from his cosmic bag, put it on, and clenched his fists. His gaze lingered on the barrier leading to the 8th floor with a peculiar look. What's hidden on the 8th floor? And what exactly is this violet gold skin, containing such terrifying primordial wilderness energy? Lin Dong muttered, staring intently at the barrier. That is the primordial wilderness skin of the Lord of the Primordial Wilderness. Just as Lin Dong's voice trailed off, a hoarse voice suddenly echoed from behind him. Whoosh! Lin Dong's body stiffened for a moment before he swiftly turned around, his eyes widening at the sight. Emerging from the mysterious stone talisman was a faint, ethereal figure. The figure wasn't clearly visible, and its facial features were indistinct. Yet the faint trace of life it emitted was enough to make it clear that this apparition was indeed alive. You! Lin Dong was utterly shocked as he stared at the scene. After a moment, he blinked rapidly and said, "The spirit of the stone talisman? You should call me the spirit of the ancestral stone," the apparition said in a raspy but calm voice, floating above the stone talisman. Lin Dong's astonishment slowly faded, and he curiously looked at the figure. "You've been restored? My intellect has only been reawakened, but as for my strength, it hasn't recovered much," the spirit of the ancestral stone replied, shaking its head. There was a hint of regret in its tone. "There's plenty of primordial wilderness energy in this primordial wilderness tower. You could use it to restore yourself," Lin Dong suggested. "It's useless. To regain even a fraction of my strength, I would need the energy from the 8th floor," the spirit of the ancestral stone said coolly. "The 8th floor? You should be able to enter, right?" Lin Dong glanced at the passage to the 8th floor. Though he couldn't enter himself, the spirit of the ancestral stone had mysterious powers. It shouldn't be too hard for it to get in. I can enter, but the primordial wilderness energy there is currently healing the Lord of the Primordial Wilderness. If I absorb it, that guy would be finished," the spirit of the ancestral stone replied. The Lord of the Primordial Wilderness? Lindong was taken aback. The spirit of the ancestral stone gave Lindong a glance before floating toward the barrier. With a wave of its sleeve, the barrier gradually became transparent, allowing Lindong to peer inside. It was a sea of violet gold light, the same primordial wilderness energy Lindong had absorbed earlier. The sight made his scalp tingle. Just a few strands of that violet gold energy had almost torn him apart, and yet the 8th floor was filled with such a terrifying amount. If he entered, he would probably explode into a mist of blood within seconds. Lindong's gaze swept across the violet gold sea, then suddenly froze as a chill ran up his spine and spread throughout his body. His focus had landed on the center of the sea, where a massive figure, about 1,000 feet long, lay quietly. The giant's skin shimmered with violet gold hues, etched with intricate, mysterious patterns. Although the giant seemed to be in a deep slumber, the space around him appeared distorted. Lindong had no doubt that if this giant rose to its feet, the entire space would collapse. This giant was the embodiment of pure strength. Gulp. Lindong couldn't help but swallow. The scene before him was one of the most awe-inspiring sights he had ever witnessed. This giant was likely the most powerful being he had ever encountered, even stronger than the likes of Qingji. This is the Lord of the Primordial Wilderness, Lindong murmured, eyes wide with disbelief. No one could have imagined that such a terrifying figure was hidden within the 8th floor of the Primordial Wilderness Tower. No wonder even the heads of the 5 great families couldn't enter. Lindong couldn't help but twitch his mouth. It was just a fingernail-sized piece of skin, yet it contained such pure primordial wilderness energy. Just how terrifying was this Lord of the Primordial Wilderness? My master, the ancestral talisman master, had 8 disciples in total, and they were known as the 8 Grand Lords. That little girlfriend of yours, Huan, is actually the reincarnation of the Ice Lord. To put it bluntly, her strength surpasses even that of the Lord of the Primordial Wilderness, said the spirit of the ancestral stone calmly, with a hint of admiration when mentioning the Ice Lord. That terrifying? Lindong scratched his nose. After witnessing the imposing aura of the Lord of the Primordial Wilderness, he could faintly grasp how powerful these ancient peak experts were. He also had mixed feelings about Huan's reincarnation. If she truly awakened, that lively, black ponytailed, beautiful girl might become someone he couldn't hope to catch up with. It was a future Lindong wasn't particularly looking forward to. The stone coffin I saw in that magma-filled space. Lindong suddenly recalled the hidden mysterious space deep beneath Xianling Island. That was the Flame Lord, the ancestral stone sighed softly. Back in the day, during the Great Calamity, my master burned through his reincarnation to seal the dimensional fissures, but still, many powerful alien demons remained in this dimension. The 8 Grand Lords worked together to eradicate them, but the cost was immense. Lindong nodded silently. Clearly, something was being suppressed within that mysterious magma space. The Flame Lord likely fell into a deep slumber as a result, much like Elder Burning Sky in the alien demon region. Do they have a chance to awaken? Lindong asked. Yes, the ancestral stone nodded. They were once the peak experts of the world, transcending life and death, comprehending reincarnation. They are not easy to destroy. However, awakening will take a very long time. Lindong nodded again. Since learning about the existence of these unknown alien demons, he felt an inexplicable sense of danger. Even the powerful ancestral talisman master had to burn through reincarnation to seal the dimensional fissures. If these demons returned, who in this dimension could stand against them? The Primordial Wilderness Tower no longer contains the primordial ancestral talisman. It seems to have been lost. The ancestral stone remarked. The primordial ancestral talisman? Lindong's eyes lit up upon hearing the name. The 8 Grand Lords were once the holders of the 8 ancestral talismans, and the Lord of the Primordial Wilderness possessed the primordial ancestral talisman, the ancestral stone stated calmly. Does that mean there's also a devouring lord? Lindong couldn't help but ask, as this was the first time he'd heard such a secret. Yes, The ancestral talisman master nodded, his gaze reflecting nostalgia before he sighed. I don't know if he still exists in this world. In the past, the Devouring Lord alone fought off 5 king-class alien demons. The number of alien demons that died at his hands was in the billions. Lin Dong's eyelid twitched slightly. He knew that the Great Wilderness Monument suppressed a king-class alien demon, so he naturally understood the terrifying power of such beings. But to fight 5 of them at once, this Devouring Lord's ability was truly beyond belief. Are king-class alien demons the most powerful among the alien demons? Lin Dong asked. The ancestral stone was silent for a moment before shaking his head slowly. Above the king class, there exists the emperor class. Only the master could handle beings of that level. Fortunately, even within the alien demon clan, emperor-class alien demons are extremely rare. Emperor-class alien demons? Lin Dong whispered to himself. Just a king class was already so terrifying. What level of brutality would an emperor-class alien demon reach? Now that I've awakened, you must be even more cautious. Do not easily use my power, or else your heavenly demon mink friend's fate could be your warning. The ancestral stone suddenly reminded. Little Mink? Lin Dong was startled, his expression changing slightly. Little Mink had once told him that, not long after obtaining the ancestral stone, he had been besieged by enemies, resulting in him blowing up his body to hide his spirit within the ancestral stone, barely surviving. Who were those people? Lin Dong's gaze darkened as he asked. Alien demons, the ancestral stone replied flatly. Lin Dong's pupils contracted sharply, a look of shock spreading across his face. There are still living alien demons in this world? Yes, the ancestral stone nodded. Back then, too many alien demons poured into this dimension. While most were eradicated, some managed to hide. They will definitely regroup and find a way to tear open the dimensional fissures again. Lin Dong's expression turned grim. He knew that if the dimensional fissures were torn open once more, this world would be overrun by alien demons, and no one would be spared. Moreover, within this dimension, there are still some powerful alien demons that were suppressed but not completely destroyed. For example, the king-class alien demon beneath the Great Wilderness Monument. The other alien demons will surely try to free it. The ancestral stone added. Lin Dong nodded slightly. It seemed that once he returned to the Eastern Mystery region, the first thing he'd have to do was help the Great Wilderness Monument completely eliminate the king-class alien demon. Otherwise, if it escaped, it would truly be a massive problem. Both the Great Wilderness Monument and I were once the possessions of the Master. The alien demons are highly sensitive to our presence, so if you use my power, they might detect you. And with your current strength, forget a king-class alien demon. Even an alien demon general could kill you, the ancestral talisman master warned. I understand, Lin Dong nodded slowly. It seemed that, until his strength grew considerably, he would have to keep the ancestral stone well hidden. Although the ancestral stone couldn't provide him with overwhelming power just yet, its vast experience and knowledge were invaluable. Lin Dong knew he would gain much from it in the future. With that thought, Lin Dong stretched, glanced at the light membrane leading to the 8th floor, and then turned to leave. As Lin Dong departed, the Primordial Wilderness Tower fell silent once more. In the 8th level, the giant's body lay motionless, as if it had rested there for eternity. Outside the tower, several figures stood, their gazes fixed on the massive stone structure ahead. The tightly shut tower door had remained closed for a month since Lin Dong had entered. During this month, Lin Dong showed no sign of emerging, much to the surprise of Gu Shuo and the others. They all knew that the primordial wilderness energy within the tower had miraculous effects on refining the body. However, the energy was exceptionally heavy, making it difficult to endure for such an extended period. Do you think something has gone wrong? Gu Mingqi's beautiful eyes remained on the tower door, a hint of worry in her voice. There shouldn't be any problems. Lin Dong is not only powerful, but also cautious. If he found it too difficult, he would have withdrawn on his own. His prolonged stay likely means he doesn't want to come out yet, Gu Shuo mused. Heh, even so, it's rare to see someone of his level last an entire month in the Primordial Wilderness Tower. Even Shun Tuju only lasted 20 days inside. That guy's a freak. Gu Mingqi's lips curved into a faint smile, making her stunning face even more captivating. He's indeed a freak. If he's given time to grow, he will surely carve out a place for himself in the Chaos Demon Sea. Gu Shua nodded, then added regretfully, "It's a pity we can't have him working for our Gu clan. Eagles won't settle for small spaces. Our Gu clan may be too small for someone like him," Gu Mingqi said softly. "Or maybe the kid just has high standards. Not even our Gu clan's young mistress could get him to stay. Doesn't he know the line of admirers for you stretches from one end of the island to the other?" Gu Shua teased. At this, Gu Mingqi's cheeks flushed slightly as she pretended to be helpless. "If he's not interested, there's not much I can do." Gu Shua laughed heartily at her reaction, but before he could respond, his expression shifted. His gaze snapped to the Primordial Wilderness Tower's door, which had remained closed for a month. "It seems that kid is about to come out." Upon hearing this, Gu Mingqi's eyes immediately darted toward the tower. Rumble. As their gazes fell on the door, the heavy stone gates, sealed for an entire month, finally began to groan open. A wave of ancient primordial wilderness energy poured out as a slender figure slowly emerged from the dim interior, stepping into the warmth of the sunlight. Huff. Lin Dong took a deep breath of the fresh air, then turned his attention to Gu Shua and the others waiting in front of the primordial wilderness tower, a smile spreading across his face. As Gu Shua and the others watched Lin Dong emerge, their eyes involuntarily narrowed. They could sense that Lin Dong had changed significantly compared to a month ago. What was strange, though, was that this change wasn't visible on the surface. Instead, it was something they sensed. A terrifyingly explosive power seemed to be concealed beneath his lean frame. This power was even stronger than it had been a month ago. Heh! It seems Lin Dong has reaped great benefits from his month of training. The surprise in Gu Shua's eyes gradually faded, replaced by a smile. "I must thank the Gu clan," Lin Dong replied with a smile. During his time in the Primordial Wilderness Tower, not only had his strength increased, but he had also stabilized his primordial energy. Most importantly, he had awakened the spirit of the ancestral stone. It was a mutually beneficial arrangement. "Without your help, our Gu clan wouldn't have secured even a single spot," Gu Shua chuckled, waving his hand dismissively. Lin Dong returned the smile. He had developed a favorable impression of the Gu clan. Although he had contributed significantly, they hadn't shown any pettiness or acted dishonorably once they got what they wanted. "Lin Dong, it's currently storm season on the sea, which might make traveling a bit difficult. Why not rest on Martial Gathering Island for a few more days?" Gu Mingqi suggested with a charming smile. Lin Dong hesitated for a moment before smiling and nodding. The Gu clan had treated him well, and leaving right after receiving their help would indeed seem a bit ungrateful. Seeing that Lin Dong hadn't refused, a hint of joy flashed in Gu Mingqi's eyes, and her smile grew even more radiant. "Come on then, let's head back to the Gu clan for a bit of rest," Gu Shua said with a smile. He was more than happy for Lin Dong to stay a little longer. He also knew full well the power of Gu Mingqi's charm. If the two young people spent more time together, who knows? Perhaps their Gu clan would gain a powerful ally. Lin Dong nodded and was about to move when something stirred within him. He looked up at the distant sky above Martial Gathering Island, where a powerful aura was swiftly approaching. This aura was even stronger than Gu Shua's beside him. Gu Shua noticed Lin Dong's shift in attention and immediately sensed the approaching presence. What a powerful aura. I wonder which expert this could be. It seems they're headed for Martial Gathering Island, Gu Mingqi remarked in surprise. Perhaps it's a guest of one of the great families, Gu Shua speculated. Martial Gathering Island was jointly guarded by 5 powerful families, each of whom had many strong connections across the Celestial Windsea region. This presence, though powerful, didn't seem to alarm him too much. Lin Dong's steps suddenly halted. His pupils contracted slightly. The voice speaking to him was, of course, the spirit of the ancestral stone within him. But was it coming for him? When had he ever offended a powerhouse of such caliber? Is it Elder Evil Bone? Lin Dong's eyes flickered. Then a flash of realization crossed his mind as he asked inwardly in surprise. This time, The ancestral stone did not offer a reply, which was clearly an acknowledgement. Lin Dong's expression gradually turned grim. He hadn't expected Elder Evil Bone to act so swiftly and decisively. What's wrong? Gu Mingqi noticed the sudden change in Lin Dong's expression and couldn't help but ask with concern. It's Elder Evil Bone, Lin Dong replied slowly. His gaze darkened. Elder Evil Bone? Gu Shuo and the others were momentarily stunned at the name. Then their expressions shifted slightly. He's coming for you? From their reactions, it was evident that they had heard from Gu Yin about how Lin Dong had killed one of Elder Evil Bone's disciples. Lin Dong nodded lightly and looked up in the direction from which the powerful aura emanated. His eyes glinted with a hint of shadowy sharpness. This time, he had truly stirred up a massive problem. Gu Shuo's expression turned serious. He too understood well how troublesome Elder Evil Bone could be. Most importantly, Elder Evil Bone was a patron of the Evil Wind Cavern, aligned with such a powerful force that even the Gu clan's reputation might not sway that eccentric old man. Elder Gu Shuo, what should we do? Gu Mingqi looked to Gu Shuo and asked softly. It was clear that Elder Evil Bone came with ill intentions. Although Lin Dong's strength was exceptional among the younger generation, there was still a significant gap compared to a seasoned powerhouse like Elder Evil Bone who had roamed the celestial Windsea region for years. Gu Shuo's brows furrowed, his expression shifting between light and dark. After a long moment, he gritted his teeth and said firmly, no matter what, Lin Dong is a guest of our Gu clan while he's on Martial Gathering Island. If Elder Evil Bone wants to make a move against him, he'll have to answer to us first. Lin Dong felt a warmth in his heart at these words and immediately responded, Elder Gu Shuo, there's no need for that. This is my personal matter, and I wouldn't want to drag the Gu clan into it. Lin Dong, no need to say more. If you were elsewhere, I might have turned a blind eye, but since you are here, you are our Gu clan's guest. If word gets out that we couldn't even protect our own guest, how would the Gu clan continue to hold its ground in the celestial Windsea region? Gu Shuo waved his hand, speaking in a deep voice. Lin Dong's lips twitched slightly, and a sense of respect for Gu Shuo's stubbornness grew in his heart. After all, not everyone had the courage to confront a seasoned powerhouse like Elder Evil Bone on behalf of an unknown junior like him. Still, he had his own considerations. Elder Evil Bone came with an overwhelming presence and was unlikely to leave empty-handed, and he couldn't hide on Martial Gathering Island forever. So, he had to find a way to get out of this situation. What a troublesome old ghost. Lin Dong squinted slightly, his gaze fixed on the distant blue horizon. Suddenly, the sound of wind breaking rang out, and an imposing and domineering aura spread unrestrainedly over the sky above Martial Gathering Island. Whoosh whoosh. The appearance of such a powerful aura naturally drew the attention of various experts on the island. Immediately, the sound of wind rushing filled the air as figures hovered in the sky, looking warily toward the direction of that overwhelming presence. Whoosh! Under countless gazes, a gray beam of light tore through the sky from a distance and eventually appeared above Martial Gathering Island. As the beam of light dissipated, an elder with gray hair draped loosely, holding a white bone staff, emerged with an immense and terrifying aura, filling the sky. Where is the brat who killed my disciple? Get out here now. The gray-robed elder appeared. His cold and shadowy gaze swept over Martial Gathering Island like a venomous snake. His voice, icy and thunderous, reverberated across the island like rolling thunder. Above Martial Gathering Island, the gray-robed elder stood in the air, his voice amplified by his immense primordial energy, booming across the sky like a thunderstorm. The sudden arrival of this shout stirred a commotion on Martial Gathering Island. As the sound of wind breaking filled the air, many eyes, tinged with shock, turned towards the distant sky and the gray-robed elder. It was clear that he held considerable notoriety in the celestial Windsea region, as whispers quickly spread among the crowd. That's Elder Evil Bone. What is this old ghost doing here on Martial Gathering Island with such hostility? Who killed his disciple? Whoever it was, they've got quite the nerve. Don't they know that this old ghost is notoriously protective and ruthless? Ha! Looks like Martial Gathering Island is in for some trouble today. Elder Evil Bone stepped lightly in the air, his slightly sunken eyes scanning Martial Gathering Island like a serpent. The murmured discussions drifting into his ears only deepened the chill in his gaze. Master! At this moment, the sound of breaking wind came from a distance as several figures flew over. Leading them was Chen Luo, who, upon seeing the gray-robed elder, hurriedly called out with respect. Chen Luo, you couldn't even handle the scoundrel who killed your junior brother? You actually had to summon me here personally? Elder Evil Bone glanced at Chen Luo and spoke indifferently. Hearing his master's words, cold sweat immediately appeared on Chen Luo's forehead, and he quickly replied, Master, I intended to personally capture that brat and bring him before you for punishment, but that guy is extremely formidable. Even Shin Tujue was no match for him. So Elder Evil Bone's gaze flickered slightly upon hearing this. The name of the Iron Azura from the Shunta clan was something he had heard before. Despite his young age, he had already reached the great completion of the life mystique stage, a talent that would stir the envy of many. Among the younger generation in the Celestial Windsea region, there were probably only 2 exceptional prodigies from the 2 great celestial havens who could surpass him. And now, yet another one had emerged? Where is this person? Elder Evil Bone asked calmly. Regardless of how talented that person was, he had made the grave mistake of killing his disciple. If the boy didn't pay for his crime with his life, then in the future, everyone would think Elder Evil Bone couldn't even protect his own disciple. He's currently a guest at the Gu clan, Chen Luo responded, a hint of joy flashing in his downcast eyes. The Gu clan? Elder Evil Bone narrowed his eyes slightly, then swept his gaze across the sky. His powerful voice echoed once again, Elder Gu Shuo, I have no desire to become enemies with your Gu clan. So, hand over the boy who killed my disciple. On a distant mountain peak, Gu Shuo's old face darkened slightly. His eyes flickered before he rose into the air, smiling as he cupped his hands toward Elder Evil Bone. Hee, Elder Evil Bone, long time no see? Elder Evil Bone regarded Gu Shuo indifferently, paying little attention to his pleasantries. Elder Gu, my disciple was murdered. I'm in no mood for small talk. Elder Gu, you'd better hand over Lin Dong, Chen Luo interjected coldly. Gu Shuo's eyes darkened as he frowned. Elder Evil Bone, Lin Dong is a guest of my Gu clan. I don't care what grievances you have with him, but on Martial Gathering Island, I won't allow you to harm him. So, you're willing to risk becoming enemies with me over a mere youngster? Elder Evil Bone's eyes gleamed with a chilling light as he spoke slowly. At this point, Elder Evil Bone's gaze suddenly shifted toward a distant mountain peak, his cold eyes locking onto a slender young figure like a venomous snake. Boy, you killed my disciple, didn't you? Elder Evil Bone's voice boomed as his gaze fixed on Lin Dong. His shout caused the very air to ripple with primordial energy, his thunderous voice crashing in Lin Dong's ears like a storm. The violent sound waves made Lin Dong's body tremble, his eardrums stinging with pain. His face darkened gradually. Be careful, Elder Evil Bone reached perfect completion of the life mystique stage many years ago. He's far stronger than Shin Tiju, Gu Mingqi warned gravely from the side. Lin Dong nodded slightly. He could sense a dangerous aura from Elder Evil Bone, far surpassing that of an ordinary perfect completion of the life mystique stage expert. This old ghost might have even touched the death mystique stage. Realizing this, Lin Dong's heart sank. This old man was truly formidable, and it seemed that getting rid of him would be no easy task. No matter who you are, a life for a life. Today, I'll take your life to avenge my disciple. Elder Evil Bone's eyes gleamed with malice as he glared at Lin Dong. With a step, he vanished and reappeared in the sky above the mountain peak, his white bone staff smashing into the air. A torrent of primordial energy shot out, surging toward Lin Dong. This is Martial Gathering Island, not a place for your antics, Elder Evil Bone. Gu Shuo, seeing this, clenched his fists in anger. His figure flickered, appearing in front of Lin Dong. With a powerful punch, he dispersed the wave of primordial energy. However, Gu Shuo staggered back several steps, clearly outmatched by Elder Evil Bone's strength. Gu Shuo, do you really think you're a match for me? Elder Evil Bone sneered coldly at Gu Shuo. I've said it before. As long as Lin Dong remains on Martial Gathering Island, I won't let you harm him. Gu Shuo stood his ground firmly. With a wave of his hand, a signal flare shot into the sky, exploding with a bright flash. Whoosh, whoosh, whoosh. As the flare burst, the sound of wind tearing through the air echoed. Numerous Gu clan experts rushed in from all directions, hovering in the sky as they kept a wary eye on Elder Evil Bone. Elder Evil Bone, for the sake of the Gu clan, I urge you not to stir up trouble on Martial Gathering Island. Otherwise, if the clan leader finds out, there will be consequences. A white-haired elder, another Gu clan senior, stepped forward, his strength on par with Gu Shuo's. Are you trying to use Gu Fan's name to suppress me? Elder Evil Bone's expression changed slightly at the mention of the Gu clan leader. He snorted coldly, but it was clear that even this notoriously tyrannical figure had some fear of Gu Fan. Hee, not at all. But Lin Dong is a valued guest of the Gu clan. He helped us win the Martial Gathering Championship. If we let you harm him here, who would dare assist the Gu clan in the future? The white-haired elder smiled faintly. Are you saying that once Lin Dong leaves Martial Gathering Island, he'll no longer be under your protection? Chen Luo's eyes gleamed as he spoke. The white-haired elder's gaze sharpened, his brows furrowing as he said, In theory, yes. Sorry. I have no intention of hurting myself. If you enjoy such things, why don't you cripple yourself instead? Lin Dong smiled faintly at Elder Evil Bone. You sharp-tongued brat. Elder Evil Bone sneered darkly. Whether or not you'll be crippled isn't for you to decide. Once I capture you, you'll pay the price. Lin Dong sneered in return, a flicker of killing intent flashing deep in his eyes. Today, you're protected by the Gu clan, so I'll let you go for now. But Elder Evil Bone's face twisted into a sinister grin, and a cold glint flickered in his eyes. Suddenly, a gray light shot from his eyes at an astonishing speed, striking Lin Dong's body. If you spend the rest of your life hiding on Martial Gathering Island, then fine. But if you dare step 1 foot off this island, I'll make sure you understand what it means to be a beaten dog, wishing for death rather than life. Hearing these words, Lin Dong's hands slowly clenched into fists, his eyes gradually turning vicious. This old dog,